Good morning, good morning, good morning, and hello to everybody. It is Wednesday, January the 12th. It's sun shining, it's a little chilly, but we have a lot to talk about today. How's it going for you, Sonya?
Hey, still telling people Happy New Year.
Yep, for the rest of the month
I'm
until
texting
January 31st.
y'all call me texting. Talking about Happy New Year. Let's go do lunch.
Cool. I see we got people jumping in. We got Ivory, Rhea, Ms. Muffin. We got Jacqueline on here who just graduated. But we got a lot to talk about today. Some of the things that we want to talk about, which is really important, that's kind of getting attention now. But the new Tennessee school funding formula draft was released yesterday, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Connected with a town hall that's going to be at the Board of Education. We'll talk a little bit about a state legislator and his interview as he talks about education and just our views on that. We'll also talk about yesterday, or on the 11th, which was yesterday, the Tennessee State Legislature reconvened. And so a lot of decisions were made late last year outside of the legislature with only literally a couple of weeks. And so it'll be interesting to see what's on their agenda, how it affects Nashville, how it affects the state. And then as we also talk about report card and progress reports, me personally, Sonya, I done seen parents posting, I wouldn't even say the good, the bad, and the ugly. I just seen the good, but I want to hear the bad and the ugly too, so we can see where we are. And last, what we'll talk about is just continuing our campaign around this public comment that's connected to school funding, making sure like our voices are heard, but also making sure we have a seat at the table.
Absolutely. And that's, hey, John, that was a mouthful. You need some Gatorade after all of that. That was a whole bunch of stuff. John looked like he drinking out of a flower vase, but that's yeah. But like, there's a lot of things going on in the landscape of education that parents need to be on top of. Good morning, Miss Moppin. And I don't know why I'm still so excited. Like, I don't know, because we was Rhea said we was shut down, but we was on winter break.
Mm-hmm.
Real. I'm just full of something. I don't know. I just get really excited when I'm seeing the parents. So welcome back again. Hey, Jacqueline. Hey, Scotty Too Hottie. I've been following you on Facebook, man. Been praying for you in secret, in the secret place. But just know that I have been praying for you. Sometimes you just pray for people and you just go on. Sending my love. Avery is turning 4 soon. So he'll be ironing next year. I put that on your Facebook. He's going to be ironing his clothes at 5, like my kids were. We celebrate Avery. We love her. It's like one of my Nashville Propel babies. So, yeah. How's Carson doing? Is he joining us co-hosting today?
He ain't. His mom stayed home, and so she got him, done put the whammy on him where he can get a good nap. But if it was up to him, he'll definitely be on here smiling, styling, and profiling.
Yes. All right, John. Let's go. Fired up, ready to go. What we gonna talk about?
Yeah. So let's first get into it, and we'll get into this first topic, and I'll pull the article. But first, like we want you guys to start commenting around, like, if you've got progress reports from last year that you're just getting, or the report cards, like, let us know how that's going. If it was good, if it was bad, if it was ugly, if it was decent, like, let us know so we can keep a good pulse check. But the first thing that we'll really get into, Sonya, is this new funding formula. I'm going to pull up an article about the draft, but if you can just start talking about, I know some parents have heard, but just where we are on this, what is it, and what's to come.
So, I think it's always good to give some background knowledge for those who are joining us new. We want to meet our parents where they are. And most of you may not know that your students come with a dollar sign on them. Is that how we always say it? Like, they get these t-shirts with these dollar signs. And there is a BEP formula. It's like the basic education. What does the P stand for? I can't even remember.
Program.
It's a program in which there's a formula that's based off of membership and attendance that each school uses they report the enrollment of kids in their school to the state, and the state does their portion of funding the schools. Right here in Nashville, the state has a portion that they fund, and then the local government has another part, and along with philanthropy dollars. So MNPS gets a lot of money. They have a budget of approximately 1.1, 1.2 billion dollars, and then some that I think that we don't hear about.
Right. You talk about grants.
Yes. And so this formula is basically as it stands right now, approximately $12,000, a little bit more over that, is allocated to each student as they go to school. And I bet some of you guys are like, what? Really? And it's really equivalent to a lot of the admission and costs to private schools, to be honest.
Yeah.
When my children were in private school just recently, even 2 years ago, we paid about $11,000 a year. So for those who try to say that, we can't educate children, that's why I can look at them and say they're a damn lie. Because when you know something, can't nobody tell you nothing. When you done a thing, you can teach a thing and you know a thing. So, and those teachers at those private schools do not have the salaries that are equivalent to metro schools, nor the benefits. I promise you.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they don't. They don't make as much money. They do have a lot of autonomy at those schools. They have philanthropy dollars that come into those schools to allow their schools to go in. And then they have a culture at their school that allows it to progress. That's what you see in a lot of private schools. Okay. And so that formula that money is not used for private schools. It's only used for public schools and charter schools, which are also public schools. Get the same amount of money because it's not about the school model. It's about the child. And so what we knew and what we've known for some time is that there are several states that really have not done their fair share of putting the money in the bank. So you got the money in the bank, then you've got a formula. And so what you need is, in order for that formula to really work, you got to have something to apply the formula to. And what we found is that the state is not putting enough money in the pot, in the bucket, in the bottle, in order for the formula to apply so that more dollars can go towards each student. Now, these dollars are used to pay salaries, for programming, to keep schools running, to pay six-figure jobs, all of those things, right? And what we found, just truth be told, is the people that work closest to the students and the students are the one that gets the short end of the stick using this formula. So there's a lawsuit going on amongst metro schools, Shelby County schools, who challenged this formula. And then you have the state who has is doing its due diligence about going and getting feedback from the community. And you've got the state legislators who had just gone back in session on yesterday to talk about this formula. And the Department of Education has been doing these town hall meetings in which we partnered with them for the very first one back in, I want to say, the end of October. To host one of these town halls to get feedback. And there were 150 people in Sumner County. So they've been doing these regional town halls getting feedback. And most of the things that we heard, that people want to ensure that each dollar that is coming from the state goes to each individual's child's needs, whether your child has an IEP and needs their accommodations, whether that child is an EL student, whether that child is living in a zone where there's low performing schools and experiencing poverty. Those were the sounding boards that we heard across that meeting, and what has been sounded out across this meeting. There's also been a versus of people. So you got the majority of people who want those things in particular and want to make sure we have outcomes, but then you have people who want to continue to save the system and have the system to work the way that it is worked, and that is building of middle class people's salaries and not really producing outcomes, who say, well, we don't want parents to have a choice, and we don't think that this formula should fund other opportunities, that basically we wanted to fund the same things it's been funding and keep children where they are without any results.
Yeah, and Sonia, you say that, and we'll read the article. But the thing I always say, when we talk about priority schools, when we talk about schools that are not meeting the mark, you have never seen anyone in leadership have their kid at a failing school because it means something. It's just that simple. And so when we think about, 3 years ago, we had 21 low performing schools, and you had no one in leadership, not just on the board, but I'm talking about people who work in the central office. I'm talking about people who work in schools. Like, if they're working in a school, they know the schools to keep their kids away from, and they can work at that school, but they say they'll be damned if they'll take convenience of taking their kid to the same school they work at rather than driving somewhere else to drop their kid off and then going to work. And that's just the issues that we deal with. And so I'm gonna pull the article up just to talk about funding, because it's going to get into some of the things that we talk about as Propel. But then I would love to have a quick discussion about it. And so let me pull this up. So it says, Tennessee releases draft framework of new school funding formula, but they seek more input. And we'll be posting that link because we are definitely inputting our opinions, but we need more. And so just some of the highlights, it says the framework comes as lawmakers begin, like Sonia said, on Tuesday. Bill Lee, the governor, has been proposing a new formula since the old formula was under a lawsuit. The state is seeking public comment for the framework. It was until this Friday. They moved it to the 18th. And then this is the email, which we'll also put in there, but we also got our link, which will make this really easy. And then I'll just read some of the highlights. It says, a potential new school funding formula would provide additional money for low-income students, rural students, English language learners, students with disabilities, charter schools, according to the draft framework released by the Tennessee Department of Education. The draft came the same day as lawmakers came back in. They added a 4-day extension, but Commissioner Penny Swin says, we know this cannot just be about a funding formula in isolation, but about what funding can do to accelerate achievement for our students, ensure they have access to high quality education, and set them up for success after high school, Swin said in a statement.
Yes. And most of us are products of
Come on now.
I've had 3 children to graduate from Hunters Lane Comprehensive High School. I graduated from Whites Creek Comprehensive High School, and we know that the funding of the schools, it must meet the child's needs, right? Mm-hmm. It's imperative that those dollars, which are important, money is important.
It is.
Money equals power. That those dollars meet the needs of those children, and not just meet it, but it responds to their needs. What do I mean by that? That's equity. It responds to wherever it needs to respond. It reacts. There needs to be action. It needs to be action and respond to the needs of those children.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's where we are right now. When we talk about, you're seeing low income, you're seeing English language learners, you're seeing kids with IEPs, and you gotta think about this. And this is why it's so important, because the last funding formula stayed around for the last 30 to 35 years. And, they talk about how Nashville was getting the lowest amount because the way the formula was set up. In a big city, you get less money. But Sonia, you and I talked about briefly of some of the things that were going on Twitter when they were talking about the money, right? And so, what I talk about a lot, it's really about the money, right? It's some things you just can't do without the money, right? But also, you have just seen systems that got a ton of money that's not making its way down to the real people. And so you got people sitting up top getting fat, And then you got the people who really need it who are still struggling. And so one of the things I always say is it's not just about the money. A lot of people don't even know what the school budget is because they value the school's budget. They put it at a valuation based on what they see. And when somebody told me the school system, the budget is $1 million a year, I said, Nashville, we got a problem.
Yeah. And I'm tweeting somebody because they asked about perspective. So I'm tweeting them and say, join us on our Facebook Live now. Just a minute. Let me go ahead, John.
Yeah, but these are the things that we want to talk about. So as we go into it, so this public comment thing, a lot of people who understand this are getting in comments, and then they're talking about social emotional health. They're talking about making sure we have more funding so we can deal with different things. But one of the things that I'm realizing in COVID, right, we got a ton of money. That's just things that we don't talked about countless. But again, if you ask a parent, have they seen the difference this year from 2 or 3 years ago? And the answer is going to be no, because it's not making its way down. And I think it's important that we show up at the table when we look at progress reports, right? Like one parent said it was rough in December, but they were able to turn it around. And I think I remember what school your kid goes to, Kim. But what we're looking for, like, how can we have that across the board? Like, how can we see some things that need support and those kids get the support? When I think about the basic things is reading, right? When you look at how fast Nashville is growing and it ain't no stopping. Somebody told me Microsoft is trying to come. And if Microsoft come, it's really going to be shut down. And you think about the city's growth and then you ask, are the real people, the people who have lived here 10, 15, 30, 40 years, are they experiencing that growth? And then you say, why? Because they say if you're not at the table, you on the menu. And people who have just been here, who got your kids in regular schools, like right now, a lot of our kids are on the menu.
Yeah, and I was listening to the great Jeffrey Canada this morning, and he really highlighted that, and he brought that home. I almost dropped my oatmeal listening to him. I almost got, I almost went in, like they used to say in church.
Come on,
because what he really said was nothing has changed. Like he says, every 10 years, the same topics come up, whether it's about learning loss, it's about funding, whether it's about, people just plain old just not educating Black children, and nothing has changed.
Wow.
Whatsoever. And he's right. Like, I've been in this game, and I call it a game because I'm doing it on purpose. We used to call our show Access Denied, Charge It to the Game. We might have to bring that back. It is a game. Like, it is a game. Folk are playing with children's lives. And this is my thing. When we speak as Nashville Propel, you best believe that the point of view is not just of our own. We've been busy doing what we do.
This is your home.
And that is your organizing on the ground.
The guest bedroom.
It is playing while I'm talking.
How many millions of young people?
John, a commercial is playing. We've been doing what we do best. And when we came back from winter break, we really focused on making sure that the parents' voice is being heard in this whole conversation. And so to date, we have about 71 parents who are Nashville Propel parents who have been educated around these sorts of topics, who have submitted public feedback. And we have until Friday, and we plan to add on more to that. And so we have not been sitting by idle on this conversation, but we've been doing what we say in organizing the real work. We have been on the ground. I want to shout out to our organizing team who have been making calls and phone banking and making sure that parents understand the importance of this. I want to shout out to the parents for showing up. 71 parents in a matter of 5 days, who have submitted their feedback. Black parents. who have submitted their feedback via email. And I want to shout that out. It does not go unnoticed. And I said that to say that, we are the parents that we serve. And we want to make sure that our parents understand what's going on, because a lot of things are being done behind closed doors, up on the hill, you name it, at boardrooms, in offices that don't include the parent voice. Can't hear you. John, you muted.
I think you said a mouthful right there, and I just saw some of our parents pop up again. I know I highlighted it early, but Miss Davis, Jacqueline Davis, and I just saw Waukesha just graduated along with Jacqueline from our fellowship this past Saturday. And to listen to her, Waukesha, what I really remember, you realized it just wasn't you and your husband's problem. Like, as we listen to other parents, we realize that this is a larger problem. And she loves her school, but what I love, she know the school ain't perfect, and she's gonna make sure it works for her kid. And she made no apologies about it, because it ain't personal. And so it was just always a joy for cohort 12, our last fellowship class, just to hear her passion go in on like why this is important. And then like she's already been connecting us with other parents. I was just talking to Tierra, and she was telling me how Waukesha was on fire. Like, and that's what we need in the movement, because Waukesha by herself, right, is a force. I'm pretty sure when she knock on that door or ring that doorbell to come into the school, they probably say, "Oh, Miss Grant's here." But I think the magic part of it is when she got Jacqueline, when she got Rhea, when she got Tierra, when she got other parents who went through the fellowship, like that makes it strong. And I wish Torvis and Thomas were on here, because they have good stories of just the system like straight up lying, Sonia. So we did a meeting at the school, and the school straight up lied. And sometimes you walk out of somewhere and you believe it, right? And then before you reach the door, you say, "But wait a minute." We said, "Wait a minute. That don't even make sense." So we went back, right? And we knocked on the door, and you know what they was in there doing?
What?
They was in there doing a meet. Oh, we got them. Hey,
celebrate.
They was like, man. So
they was celebrating. They was like, "Whoa, we got away with one."
We pulled the okie doke. But look what the parent said. She was like, "I hear you guys, but let me see that camera." No, she said, "Let me see the statements." And then the principal said, "Oh, we got to go get them." We were like, how you gonna go get statements that you already had?
Come on now.
That
question was everything and everybody, and there you find the what?
Come on, you find the truth.
You find the truth.
You find the truth. And that was just one example of just power of just being able to, because that parent cared a lot about her kids. But when we walked in that room, we walked in 3-4 deep, and we were outnumbered. It was about 12 people in there. And so when you think about it, like, that's intimidating. But I see Miss Waukesha jumping on here. She say, right on, "I truly enjoyed class so much." And just Waukesha, just know we got more coming, Miss Grant. Then she said, "I appreciate you guys so much." And you can, Sonya and I tell you, it's mutual. Like, we feed off the energy of parents who realize that they're already strong and powerful, but realize like it's time to take it to a new level, because you got your peoples with you.
And when you know your why, the reason why I do this work is I never want another parent to feel the way that I felt when I realized that my child was not receiving quality. And when you know your why, and when you see things like that, when you hear Miss Grant, then you just know that you wake up every morning to do this. It's what God called you to do. I thought he called me to be a nurse, but that's not what he called me to do. He called me for this very moment. And I'm Waukesha, like John said, you inspire us. And we appreciate. I don't want to do anything else but what we're doing. Nothing else.
Yeah. And so, Sonya, one of the things that I'm going to pull up as Rhea talks about question everything when it comes to our children, like, I totally agree. I want to play a little bit of Jeffrey Kennedy. I was loading the video up because this is a Black man. If you guys don't know, this is a Black man who started the Harlem Children's Zone. It was way before New York City got regentrified. And he started a zone, which he started with one block. And every opportunity he got, he grew that block. But he provided the services, right? The money was going straight to him. And as a man and a person who cared, every time the money came in, it went to the community to help it grow. And he became a national figure because not a school system, not a large corporation, but one man and a nonprofit board grew the impact of their city, of their community, by really focusing on kids and making sure all that money that they were getting in forms of grants was actually going into the community, and it made a difference. So I'm gonna play just a little bit of that, so you guys can see.
Absolutely possible. Why haven't we fixed this? Those of us in education have held on to a business plan that we don't care how many millions of young people fail. We're going to continue to do the same thing that didn't work. And nobody is getting crazy about it, right? Enough to say enough is enough. So here's a business plan that simply does not make any sense. You know, I grew up in the inner city, and there were kids who were failing in schools 56 years ago when I first went to school. And those schools are still lousy today. 56 years later. And you know something about a lousy school? It's not like a bottle of wine, right? Where you say like 87 was like a good year, right? That's not how this thing, I mean, every single year, it's still the same approach, right? One size fits all. If you get it, fine. And if you don't, tough luck. Just tough luck. Why haven't we allowed innovation to happen? You go into a place that's failed kids.
And I'll stop it right there. Let me pull
and you
this
say,
through.
So what's the plan?
And so, Sonya, when you hear that, because again, that's what we already know, but to hear somebody on a TED talk about it, like, what does that mean to you?
I think I said it earlier. That nothing's happening.
Mm-hmm.
That is the same TED talk that I listened to this morning. And as I fixed my oatmeal that I am still trying to eat on over here and drank my tea that I'm still drinking on, it really resonated with me. That we are still in the same place that we were, you know, even as he said back in 1975. But what inspires me is people such as, I'm going to call him Dr. Canada, who did not stay silent and who is doing the real work and doing his part. And I just know that we need to continue to build our movement as we have done so powerfully, and continue to fight and not to give up. And it's people like him that inspire people like me and like you, that our children are not lost. They're not lost. People are abandoning them and just not doing for them. That's how I feel. Our children are not lost causes. Stop looking at our children like they're criminals and struggling people all the time. Our children are genius. I see the genius in them.
But Sonya, and Chanel took the words right off my mouth.
How long?
57 years, right? So it ain't a New York thing, right?
It ain't new. I just said it ain't new.
Or Texas or California.
Ain't nothing changed. It is the American way. It's the American way, John. This is America. System failure. United States of America. The home of the free, supposedly, and the land of the brave.
Yeah,
and that shit missed us.
Yeah.
It missed us.
Yeah. And I would say we ain't free, but we brave, because we already done looked at the outcomes from our family members, our fathers and our mothers. When you look at it right now, like the graduation rate, 20 years ago, 15 years ago was like in the 80s, right? But we also realize, I'm not gonna get too personal, but I know a couple kids, I know a couple family members who graduated high school knowing they definitely wasn't ready. One of my family members graduated high school after being 3 grades behind in the pandemic, and he got all of his classes and he graduated, but we all knew he wasn't ready. So just think about not only those kids that are a positive impact on the graduation rate, but what does that mean? What does that mean when they do graduate, though? Because I can look at my friends and family and people I see in the neighborhood who graduate who shouldn't have graduated because they never been on grade level, and I can look at them, looking in my mind what they're doing right now, and you can have a good idea. And the biggest thing is it's not anything. They might have a job.
Can I change our mindset with that a little bit? Words mean something to me. You didn't say anything wrong, but I want to change our mindset. You said shouldn't have graduated. They should have graduated. But they should have graduated prepared.
Yep.
And so I just want to change what we say, because people will take what we say and they will twist our words around. Like when we say shouldn't have graduated, then they feel like, well, I'm going to hold children back. What should have happened is, because now here we are, we have a 3rd grade retention law, right? If children can't read, they should have been taught to read in the first place.
Yep.
And so what we do is our words sometimes create laws and things and messages that we've done something wrong. And we, the people, have not done something wrong. I still remember the preamble of the United States Constitution. I still remember Miss Jordan teaching me that back in 7th grade at Ewing Park. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. I think about that all the time. I think about the teachers who tried to make the system work for me.
Yeah.
And out of their own, and they didn't even have the power.
Yep.
To make it work. And they were good teachers. Miss Smotherman, she was the best math teacher I can say I ever had. And that was the only time I felt confident in doing math. And she used to have a little candy store. Chanel, you probably remember this. She had a little candy store. Or maybe Chanel, you probably went to Georgia. But I'm talking about Ewing Park. But I also remember being on either the blue team or the yellow team. And where one team got books and novels to read. And the team that I was on was just everybody else. And we didn't have the same tools because we weren't looked at as the same. And that's how we were identified. And I realized that as an adult, when my son went to East Middle School, and I could see the difference with him being on the red or the blue team, where Ramona Bryant, Chanel, went to high school with her, who's an excellent educator. She was on this other team, and I could see how my child was not getting the same things that she and her team were providing for their team. My son's team didn't have a science teacher for a whole year. I say that to say it is not our fault as parents. Right. And we have to watch what we say, because people will take our words.
Yep.
Now, there's some responsibilities that parents have. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the system. That's a different conversation. And to me, shouldn't be intertwined because they're handled different.
Amen. I go back to when we did the Disrupt and Dismantle with BET on national TV. Soledad asked one of our parents, "Do you think it's your fault?" And she was so serious. She was like, "Yeah, it is."
Can you play that?
Yeah. But when you heard that, as I get ready to cue it up, like, tell me what was running through your mind, because I'll never forget. And And that was a strong parent, right?
And
like
it wasn't rehearsed. This was not, none of this was, when we went on BET Disrupt This Man, we had a school board member say it was rehearsed. It was, this is a credible national reporter, Soledad O'Brien, Emmy award winning. Nothing that we did. We didn't have no pre-questions, any of that. Nothing that we did on BET was rehearsed. And when she asked Jaquez White that question, it grieved me. And I think you can see in the video how much it grieved me to hear her say, this is a parent we've been working with. And for her to still believe that, it grieved my soul, John, and it still does, that she felt like it was her fault. And it's not. And the reason why is because we love our children. We want to protect them from everything. And we think that we really think that we can protect them from everything, but some damn things you got to have help with. And if educators are not taught how to teach children how to read, baby, how can you teach your child how to read? How can you? That's not your fault. I saw Remy Ma in what's her husband's name? Start with a P. Remy that was in prison. What was her husband's name?
Yep, Papoose.
Papoose did a Instagram video with their little daughter, and she was reading words, and that is so wonderful. But I also thought about how a lot of people are going to look at that and think that their children can do that when reading is not a natural thing. There's only 5% of people who are able to do that. And it makes us feel ashamed. Although I'm very proud of that child, it just took me to that thought. But go ahead and play the video, John.
Mm-hmm.
Are not reading on grade level, and they are not reaching their greatest potential.
A nurse by trade, Sonia Thomas runs Propel, an organization that shows parents how to be proactive in engaging the Nashville public school system.
Our mission is to organize parents to ignite a movement that demands equitable education here in Nashville.
Propel is holding an emergency meeting at Sonia's house for Jaquez White. 2 of Jaquez's 4 kids are getting D's and F's, and she says the school system isn't helping her.
We wanted to talk to you about what's happening in the school. Do you think this is a coincidence that it's this bad, or do you think it's intentional?
At this point, I feel like it's intentional. All of this stuff is systems. And it's set up for our kids to almost drift off and do wrong.
The system now is distance learning, but do you think it's creating a distance in learning in Black and brown children?
Yeah, it's separating them from everyone else, and they didn't even learn nothing this year, so what's going to happen next year?
So do you feel like this is your fault?
Yes, I do as a parent, because as a parent, you're supposed to be able to protect your kids, be there for them, and help them.
They don't know that they deserve better. You just heard Jaquez talk about it's her fault. They don't know it's not their fault. They just feel like they're failing as parents. And when you listen to this every day, you can't help but to get mad, pissed off, and tired. And the messaging is that they don't care. And that's a damn lie.
Why do you care? I mean, this is not your training.
I sat across from my son's 7th grade teacher who told me that my son is reading on a 2nd grade reading level. And we cannot send him to 8th grade next year. I never want another parent to feel the way I felt and the way I still feel. Never.
It feels like systemic failure.
It's criminal. Is it too much to ask to educate our children? Is that too much to ask?
Before I left the meeting, Sonia promised.
John, thanks for sharing that. It's muting. It's on mute. John, it's on mute.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Something was happening with the echo, so I was trying to let you know there was an echo. Something changed. But just to hear her and so many people on a daily basis feel as though they're hopeless and helpless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jaquez is also a mother who is a product of this same system, who did not learn how to read. And during this time, we were in virtual learning. And not only was Jaquez a parent that was coming to us, we had at the time in queue about 15 parents who we were working with who were having some of the same issues. And so she wasn't alone. She wasn't the only one. And there were thousands of parents who were going through this exact thing. But there were 15 that we were working directly with the school and with the central office on this with, on behalf of thousands of parents. And to hear the hopelessness and the helplessness in her voice, it angered us. It angered us.
Yeah, that's just one thing. I'll never forget that. And just listening to her, you know, because I had a perception like she was going to say, hell to the no. But when I heard the passion and the despair in her voice, I was like, Houston, we have a problem. But then it was a quick realization. You know, a few days later, we were at the board teaching her how to advocate, teaching her how to get what she wanted, because she had got shut down by the school. The school wasn't listening. They were writing her off. At one point, one of our organizers was on the call, and they didn't know he was on the call, and they were like essentially trashing the parent, like cracking jokes. And it's just like, that's how she was being treated, but that's how a lot of our families were being treated. And
but not just her. Remember this part. So the teacher, instead of corresponding, so they were supposed to be having the navigators reach out to the parents, and not one person had reached out to her. So from the time school started all the way up to November, December, not one navigator, in which the MNPS celebrated this whole navigator program, not one reached out to her. What was happening was that the teacher was talking to a fifth grader on Schoology. And let me tell y'all something. This is not all teachers, because there's some great educators. Watch what people say to your children, because I've had to get with a teacher about my son. Watch what teachers say. Watch what you say. Watch what your cousin, your auntie, everybody say to your children, because words have power. She was corresponding with this child, essentially scolding him. What he was doing, what we found out after investigating, is that he would get so frustrated, he would just shut the computer. His mom would be at work, so she's trying to work and manage him. He would shut the computer because he couldn't read and understand what was going on. And so that teacher chalked that up as a behavior problem. But when you look at it, we all shut down when something gets hard. I do. Let me speak for myself. As a 46-year-old woman who has a disability, who has her own struggles, sometimes it's hard for me to do things that I struggle. I'm a struggling reader. Sometimes I have to audio read. Sometimes I have to book read. Sometimes I don't have a problem with it. Sometimes I do. It's a weird phenomenon when you don't go through it. But she was essentially scalding this child instead of working with the mother, who can then do whatever she needed to do at home, whether that's, you know, chastise him, make up a plan to work with him. And the mom screenshotted and sent it to us.
Yep.
And the teacher was talking funky to the child. The mom was responding like she was the child, and the teacher kept thinking it was the child. So it kept escalating. And so I even had an hour. So I even had an hour meeting with the principal to discuss some of the issues, to build. I think it was Mr. Jackson.
That was at East.
Yeah. Introduced ourselves, told them what was going on, but still nothing happened. Then that meeting happened, John. That meeting happened with the organizers, where he was on there, the teacher, wasn't nobody paying attention.
Right.
After all of that.
Right.
Then we did what? What we do, John?
Yep. Went on up.
Where we go?
Had to go to the board.
We protested.
Yeah. And they started moving, they started grooving. And I think it was strong for the parents to see, man, I've been asking for weeks, for months, like the simplest things, like, oh, we just in all virtual. I need a laptop. I need a computer. and they walked out with computers. But for us, it just wasn't about those parents, which we appreciated. It was really about, we know it was thousands more families who were going through the same thing.
Yeah, but you know, in the streets or in buildings, they say, you know, that Nashville Propel, you know, they're angry. Look here, we are professional organizers. You see this? We do believe in investigating, trying to be diplomatic and talk about things. And as you can see, there's a danger in a single story, because what they saw was us on Fox 17 live going off, did not know the background story of weeks of trying to talk to teachers, trying to talk to the principal, trying to talk to the central office. And so the last result was we had to go protest.
Yep.
And guess what? Everybody in their suits was coming out them buildings because we wasn't going to leave until every child had their issue addressed.
Yeah. And Yvonne says public education is something else. But Ms. Johnson, that's why we love when parents like you come on, and thank you, Sasha, as well, because it's something else, right? Or it's a mess, or it can be screwed up for certain kids, because when we silence is violence, right? Silence is violence, to say if a kid doesn't get the education they need, and then they're just thrown out into the world, like, what does that kid really do? Does that kid get a job that can compete, you know, in the city, across the country? Are they afforded housing? Are they allowed to go to college? Do they get a chance to like jump into a vocational type program like auto mechanic? Like, no, like they got to go through, they leave public school and then go through the school of hard knocks, right? So you done seen it. You done seen a kid get out, turn 18, just go through some things, right? Because they don't know how to navigate in this world that really focuses on public education. And then they got to find themselves. So they got to teach themselves and learn from untraditional methods. And then they catch up, right? Like in the 30s, they bouncing back. But that school of hard knocks is hard. Like we done all went through it.
It is. Let me tell you something. This is what I know. I'll go to heaven on this one. I don't care what your child's disability. I have seen some children. I used to coach basketball at F.H. Jenkins. It's a private school, black private school, probably one of the few still standing. My son went there after being bullied at John Early when he was in the 7th grade. I coached basketball over there. We had a child who had a severe learning disability, and I'll never forget his mother. He played on the basketball team, and I coached him just like I coached everybody else, with accommodations. But I treated him just like everybody else. He played like everybody else. His teammates loved him and treated him the same. And I remember back then, my son is 27 now. That mom taught me something. She was always fighting for him. And I remember her talking to me about college for him.
Okay.
And I ain't gonna lie, I was like, you know, shocked that he could go to college, because I knew his level of challenge. Let me tell y'all something, black mamas, black daddies. I don't care what your child's disability, they should be educated. There are colleges and universities. And at the time, I think it was David Lipscomb, you might want to look into this, who will enroll your child into college with disabilities. All colleges take IEP students. I needed accommodations when I went to Trevecca, and I had access. Now, I did not use them because at the time I really didn't need them, but I knew that I could use them if I needed them. I had some very good instructors who worked with me. I say that to say, don't let nothing keep them from it. Nothing. Your children can still go to college. There are huge companies who want and seek children with autism, because there are some of the most brilliant children and people, grown-ups, in this world. I saw it on a national TV segment. It may have been CBS, where there was a company that had a child, a grown man, I should say, who had graduated, who figured out something, a process in this company, had very severe autism that nobody with those degrees could do. And I wanted to put that in the space because this is the year of acceleration and excellence, and we're going to get what we need to get for our kids by any means necessary.
Amen. Amen. And just with that, like one of the things I want to do as we get ready to wrap up, like going back to the advocating part, like looking at the tools and the opportunities that we have. And one of the things that's before us right now, and again, you guys will see it, is putting your voice as we talk about Tennessee school funding. We have gotten the farthest with this conversation because we're not advocating for more money. We're advocating if it is more money, like we want to make sure you do right and it actually reaches the kids, like Yvonne said, by any means necessary. And so we're going to put that link in the chat again. As you can see, it's a very simple and easy process. It allows you to put the things that you need to put on how you think about the situation. But also, we want you to tag Nashville Propel. Like, let us know, like hashtag it so they can know it's not just Rio or Ivory or Jacqueline or now Waukesha, but now it's Yvonne, right? Yeah, Kendall has been on this thing. It's Ebony, it's Denise. And so they gotta know, with receipts that we mean what we say and we do what we say we're going to do. And it's an opportunity. The deadline has been extended, but we're trying to hit our goal by this Friday. And we can't do it alone.
Thank you. I'm responding to somebody as a parent that's at work and said she could not watch the live, but she had questions about, Nashville Propel's message behind the BP funding. And so I wanted to make sure to respond. We do try to respond to people and to make sure that they have what they need. And, I'm just glad that this is recorded so she can go back later and then reach out for any questions that she may have. So Pat Fletcher said 2022 is the year of change for better. I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that. My personal word is accelerate. See, when I think about accelerate, I think about the gas pedal. Who controls the gas pedal, John? When you drive, you control how fast, how slow.
When you put the brakes on.
When you put the brakes on. So this is the year of acceleration to favor, acceleration to building a movement, acceleration to change. And thank you so much, Ms. Groves, for all that you do. We're looking forward to continue and to build this movement. And John, before we go, I want to make sure we drop that link in our comments. If you have not been able to submit a comment regarding the student funding formula, you can continue to be in that conversation. So make sure that you complete this link. And it helps us to reach our goals for collecting data also. So use our link if you don't mind. Thank you guys for doing it. Pass that on to some people. Also, it would be good to get 200 people, 200 parents, authentic parents. It would be good. That's not our goal, but it would be good. It's a like to have. We're at 71. And so we have until Friday. Then, John, Monday is Martin Luther King's birthday, and we celebrate him on Monday, and we will be celebrating. And so we will not have our weekly update on Monday. We'll come back and we'll have it on Tuesday morning in observance of the holiday and making sure that the team is able to observe that holiday. Anything else, John?
No, that's a big point. Like as we go into MLK Day and then 2 weeks later, it's going to be Black History Month. And so we got an opportunity to really get real momentum in this city because reports that I'm hearing, and that's a whole nother conversation, like leadership is not focused on the people in the city who need it the most. And that ain't a Black, white, or Latino thing. It's a thing of it's two Nashvilles. If you've been here, you're going to get left. are the decisions they're making. So I look forward to MLK Day. But after that, like, we kick right back into gear. Alumni, Sasha, I saw Jacqueline, Waukesha, Kimberly. We got our campaign call to kick it off the first year in January. That's going to be Tuesday. And we got a site. We're going to do this just a little bit different because we're actually taking it to another level. And so you definitely don't want to miss that one. And then the end of the month, of course, we got the speaker series to start it off again at the beginning of the year, as we just talk about choice, right? Like, choices that you have to make. I know a lot of our parents realize they have the choice to make it, but we want to get this out to the masses. And so we're going to need help also pushing it out to parents who usually don't tune in, so they can understand like how this process works for enrollment for the new school year for 2022-2023.
Yeah, because the week of the 23rd is actually school choice week. And I always say that when Black folk don't have a choice, we die. And what choices mean to me personally is being able to make that informed decision, having everything that I need to do what's best for my child. And it's about having opportunity. And so we will celebrate, we will push, we will educate you guys throughout the month, as we always continue to do. Because we truly believe in opportunity and options and choices and being able to do what's best with your children by having the tools that you need. So shout out. And then Black History Month, like, we got something to celebrate. We made Black History. We was on BET last year, and just looking forward to highlighting that and some of the other things, and highlighting some of the Black leaders here in Nashville that we believe are, fighting for children and fighting on behalf of children who are struggling the most. So we're excited.
Yeah. And Sonya, I see here, and I don't know it, but I can research it. But Jacqueline says, just real quick, her son was an H. What does that mean? And I don't know, but I can find out pretty quickly. Ms. Davis.
Good question. The grade for my son. What grade is your son? So there was about 3 to 4 years ago, meaning it's actually school, meaning his actual. Okay, so about 4 years ago, there was a law passed about 4 or 5 years ago where the state was going to start grading the schools by alphabet. And I'm wondering, so it went through this whole process where they decided not to do it. And I'm wondering, have they started that back up, John? We need to look into that.
Yeah.
Because it was actually something that, remember the school, they wanted to give the school the letter grade. The school's report card grade has so is it an individual grade for the school, child, or for the
or was
school?
It connected to your son? Yeah.
Yeah, it's directly connected to the child. Answer that before we go, because somebody else may not have noticed.
Yeah.
Report cards don't look like what they used to look like. As a matter of fact, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I have not seen a report card. And the first 2 report cards for my son, he's been reporting back his grades, which I know he won't lie to me, and he made the honor roll again this time. So shout out to CJ.
All right. Yeah, she said for the school. Okay, yeah, like, I'm gonna look into that. Okay.
Remember that state law, that state process that they had put together where they would be grading the schools with A, B, C, D.
Yeah, that's why when they say H, I was like, I'm trying. It's past the F.
What school is that, Jacqueline? What school is that? That tells you a whole lot. If the damn school's a low performance school and got an H, it might be hell. I don't know.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
What school is that?
Yeah. And shoot it to your organizer.
Where are the report cards? They hide their job. Yeah, it's just 2 core categories. Either the school don't have a good process for sharing it, or your child put it somewhere and it's
in the
wet.
backpack.
So you got to investigate both of them, because I used to do that. I used to change. I done changed the grade. I got the biggest whooping you ever seen. Let's see. Jacqueline, what school is that, if you don't mind telling us before we go off of here, so we can look at that? Oh Lord, it's an ASD school. That means that it was a priority school that was taken over by the state. Join us tonight. I will be doing an interview with Fox 17 that will air at 5:30, talking about this very thing. So I'm getting ready to go research this damn H. Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, we'll call you, girl. Can the organizer call her?
Yep. TJ, if you can reach out to her. But that's it, folks. It's 12 o'clock on the dot. Thank you guys for jumping in. Again, town hall tonight at 6:30. We'll have parents on there commenting. If you haven't did the link yet, we put it back up there. Please click on the link. It took me 45 seconds, but I wrote an extensive one. So it shouldn't take you longer than 45 to 2 minutes to put out.
I also wanted to know, is there a calendar for Nashville Propel? There is. And Sasha, I'm working to get it on our website.
Yep.
So give me a couple of weeks to work with the team. And as a matter of fact, if you don't mind getting with John and giving some feedback on the best way for parents, maybe we need to put together a little committee. And if Sasha, if you want to lead that, because maybe the website is not a good place, what is the best way to communicate what we have now? So Sasha, if you want to lead that, go right ahead.
Yep. Well, I'll see you tonight. We're gonna do the town hall, and so we'll spend some time jumping in on it. But thank you guys, Miss Davis. Thank you, and we will see you guys very soon.